from Minnesota. She lives here.
You can say yourself.
It's not about you. You need
I'm
to.
not from Minnesota. I'm from Michigan, so there you go. It's one way to redeem myself.
Big round of applause for Evan Cook. Next up on stage is Ski. Put your hands together for Ski.
Talk about the desert.
Yeah, not this guy.
Oh man. So bummed right now.
Now let's all get on this. Let's all get on this. Everybody take their turn. Who can ski?
Ski? Are you talking about ski park?
The history of you is not written in time. It's not counted in seconds, minutes. It's experienced in time. But the history of you is a different language. It's like asking an old guy from the country how to get to some part of the woods that only he knows how to get to. He's not going to give you route numbers or street names beyond maybe the first direction or two. After that, it's going to be things that look, rocks that look like houses or trees with knots on them. It's the same thing with you. The history that you write for yourself in your heart is not written in time. If you think you're trying to escape something from your past, it's not written in time. You need landmarks. You need rocks shaped like houses. You need trees with knots that look like birds. These things are when life is dirty. If you're not actually living life, if you're not willing to get dirty, then you will never ever find these landmarks. They don't have street names. They don't have route numbers. There's no post boxes. There's no driveways that lead back into the woods. The things that you need to make distance in your life, to make progress in your life, are written only when you do things that are tough. Only when you live life dirty. Now, when I say dirty, maybe you're getting one thing in mind, but what I think of when I think of this is real. It's gritty, it's tough. If you're not doing something that's difficult, then there's no landmarks in your mind. All you're doing is pissing away this time, pissing away these hours and minutes and seconds, hoping to put some distance between you and whatever was right behind you, what you were a second ago. But this is not the language that the history of you is written in. I had a dear, dear friend who, after she got out of the army, married one of my best friends. And I was beyond thrilled. They were such an amazing pair. And within a year, she'd been diagnosed with spine cancer. She lingered for 2 years. So stuffed on morphine that she could barely talk when I went to see her. And even now, I remember being at their house, Chris in one room, trying hard to be there, but not be there. And I was in the same room trying hard to be there, but not be there. I failed. I lost the landmark. A possibility where I could have looked back at my life and I could have said I had accomplished something, done something. Even if it was just spending more time with someone who couldn't say anything back, who would just lie there while I held her hand. Because life is dirty, it's tough, and it's difficult, or you're not actually living. Now, this doesn't have to be death. This can be just hard work. They tell you that the Army changes you. You hear the advertisements on the radio that say that companies prefer to hire veterans. And part of that is because you have never worked that fucking hard in your life. Now, after basic training, you just learn how to avoid work like a pro.
Yeah.
But when you're first in the Army, when you're in basic training, one of the greatest gifts that they give to you is the power of realizing you can suck down a lot more shit, this is terrible, than you ever thought you could. After 5 days, maybe 14 hours of sleep and not enough calories, 10 miles, 700 push-ups, 6,000 million sit-ups, and you're still there. You're not dead. You haven't quite passed out into a quivering wreck on the floor. That's dirty, that's life. That's a landmark in the history of you. And not everything that's dirty is bad. Sex is best when it's dirty, and I'm not talking nasty or in the butt or something. I'm saying sex is best when there's something there, when you have some connection with the person, when you've made the effort, when it's not something that is so casual that 5 minutes later you will forget, because that is just time, and time is not how this language is spoken. Real sex, and I'm not saying it can't be in the butt, I'm just saying that it has to be the kind of sex that has an impression, where it took time, where there was a chance of failure, where you're not performing, where it's really you. And that's the last one, and sometimes the most difficult one. A dirty life is sometimes a life where you realize that things are not fair, where you are not always the hero, and are sometimes, to your terrible, terrible amazement, the villain. It's where you realize that not everything can be fixed. I have a friend who was in a car accident. The car wrapped around her like a cellophane, like wrap, like saran wrap. That's what it was for, like saran wrap. But the car saved her, and she was left alive. But to this day, she has crippling back pains, and she's about to lose her second husband because they think they can fix her. And that's a hard truth for anyone to accept. And they can't. They can't wrap their head around it. They can't wrap their heart around it. They can't admit that it's possible. And by doing so, they're speaking in the language of time. They're leaving because something isn't right. They're leaving because of some nebulous problem that they'll change the definition of every few minutes. But really what they're doing is they're putting a landmark in the history of themselves. The history that you are writing for yourself. That you will look back near the end of your life and say, how far have I traveled? What have I accomplished in my life? That distance, those mile markers are written in this language, not time. It's not years. It's how often you really lived, how often you tried, how often you risked failure or rejection or the realization of the truth. It's a language spoken by old men in the country, trying to tell you how far to go to get to a special place in their history, in their life, just like it is. Big round of applause for Steve! We have a new performer coming up on stage next. Put your hands together. He goes by the stage name of Explosive, but he's also Milton Brasson. Put your hands together for Milton Brasson.
All the way to the stage.